You know, this episode didn't really have to go on as long as it did. There was a very simple solution that could have easily just calmed Iwabe down and everybody could have been friends, and it literally could have happened at the beginning of the episode. All Boruto had to do was give this man a Pepsi. Insert overused meme right here. Okay, so this episode of Boruto, honestly, the best way to describe it is classic, and I don't mean that in a good way, but classic schoolyard and just, you know, class and general bullying. Like, Iwabe was essentially a frustrated bully. He got left back multiple times in the academy, and he was pissed off, and a lot of the episode also had to center around Boruto and how people are viewing him, because even though he doesn't, and you know, there's gonna be this problem for a while until we get past the Boruto Naruto the movie content, which again, we don't know if they're going to readapt it. I'm imagining they are, and that's going to suck because I don't want to see that again. But nevertheless, until we get to that point, one of the main critical points of the story and this character in particular that people are going to have is the fact that his problems are mainly daddy issues. In comparison to everything Naruto went through, I mean, everybody in the village hated him. You know, he didn't have his parents. He had literally nobody. Opposed to that, Boruto still has his mother. He has his sister. His father is indeed alive, but he's busy. So that's going to be one of the critical points. But you're seeing some of the smaller problems. And I think even though they are smaller problems, and it's kind of like anybody would say, well, just get over it, it's still problems nonetheless. I mean, anybody, like, okay, if you're talking to somebody, that's a classic example right here. You're talking to somebody and you're telling them, yeah, man, you know, I got a fucking D on my math test. You know, my parents is going to be pissed at me. And they're telling you, yeah, I just got into a car accident and lost my leg. Yeah, their problem is definitely more fucked up. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I got problems. My parents about to kick my ass. You see what I'm saying? So that's the best way to put it of what's going on with Boruto right now, especially in this episode when we get to see, one, that the way his entrance was kind of rubbed people the wrong way in his class, and they're all kind of like, oh, you know, you got off so easy because your father's the Hokage, and you know, everybody's just kind of judging him because of his father. So I think another big thing is Boruto living in his father's shadow and having to overcome that. That's an obstacle in and of itself, on top of the fact that we already know, and you see inklings here, and if you've seen the movie, you know that he does have some daddy issues. His dad's not really there for him like he would like him to be. Everybody else gets to spend time with their dad, but he doesn't have him there. So I think there's a culmination of multiple different things that Boruto has to go through. It's not just like daddy won't play with me. It's also he's living in his father's shadow. People are judging him based on the fact that his father is so great, and they feel like anything he does, he's going to have an easy ride because of that. And that's certainly not the case, because at the end of the day, going to school, or any setting for that matter, it's fucked up when you're treated unfairly by your peers, especially because my father's greatness. And I think that's also, even though I don't think they were necessarily going this far, but I think that's a testament to society in general. It's like, why is it that we're in a day and age where people are punished because of the success that they've obtained, or the success that they have from like their parents, you know, their parents being great things? I think it really sucks when we live in a society like that. And again, I know I'm going way deeper than what they were probably trying to aim for, but it is something to note that it is kind of fucked up that you go through animosity and people just looking at you differently because your father did well and did great things. That's not right? So that's another interesting thing. Again, maybe that's not exactly what they were trying to showcase, but I did find that to be a fascinating point in this episode. Now, one of the characters in the beginning of the episode that I was kind of like, you cunt! You motherfucking cunt, and you're just like your fucking dad. And I was surprised because I thought this character in particular would have had a little bit more of a personality, because Sai, he was the way he was because of the way he grew up. You know, he just didn't understand things because he grew up that way. He was taught to not have emotion. He was in the Ambu. He had fucking Donzo over his shoulder being a creep and shit like that. So Sai's personality was more so built on the fact of that's how he was brought up. Ino was, you know, brought up normally, and of course it was in her character to begin with to be kind of like a normal girl, whatever. So I think, in essence, for Inojin to turn out the way he is, I think a big thing is that he was around Sai too much, because other than that, it's like, I don't think Sai was born, you know, at birth, he came out just being completely desensitized to how you speak to people. So it was kind of a little weird when Inojin came in as a cunt and was like talking shit to Boruto in this episode. I'm like, wait a minute, for starters, fuck you. Who do you think you are? Your father was never the good replacement for Sasuke. Whoa, I'm going too far there. People are gonna get pissed. But yeah, I didn't like Inojin at the beginning of the episode. By the end of the episode, it turned around a little bit. And I guess that shows the difference between Sai and Inojin, because Sai, it took him ages to understand things. And I think Inojin was trying to figure things out and possibly trying to be a good person in a sense of like trying to understand the situation and maybe even motivate Boruto to a certain degree to kind of like not be in that place that he is right now. Possibly, I mean, again, by the end of the episode, I was a little bit more fond of the character when, you know, he pulled the bird out and saved Boruto essentially from getting, you know, hammered down by Iwabe. But I was a little bit like, you fucking asshole, when Inojin was talking shit to Boruto, because it's kind of contributing to, again, another problematic aspect that Boruto has to deal with. The fact that people are looking at him and judging him because of his father. I don't think many people caught this one, by the way, and I thought it was funny as shit that they're still carrying on the fact and the joke of Shino being not noticed and not that relevant. When he comes back to the classroom and his class is gone, I'm like, damn, bro, even the kids, even the next generation don't give a fuck about you. I really hope one day Shino gets his moment and doesn't look like a complete, you know, just outcast. Maybe towards the end of this arc, or maybe somewhere in the Boruto story, he'll finally get his moment, because now that he's taken basically the place that Iruka had and the mantle of kind of being the teacher and the catalyst in a sense to a lot of the kids' lessons and whatnot, maybe he could form a bond with a couple of these kids and we could get some good scenes like Iruka had, because Iruka essentially got some amazing scenes by the end of the series, and he was one of the ones that whenever he had one of those really emotional moments with Naruto, you felt it, because again, he had those early days of him with the academy stuff and everything that happened there. So I think potentially this role that Shino is playing right now could be beneficial to him having some decent moments. I mean, he did have a couple of moments in early Naruto or whatnot, so he did have some moments, but nonetheless, yeah, this could be a good moment for Shino to shine, even though it's the next generation and whatnot. And then of course we had Boruto versus Iwabe, and we got to see a little bit of Boruto's combat skills. It showcases that while they're in the academy, you could definitely see that Boruto has some skills. You know, it passed down. Them genes of Uzumaki and Hyuga have passed down to him, because he was holding his own against this guy that's been left back multiple times and has some pretty fucking good skills at being a shinobi. He was kicking some ass using strategy, and it's like a lot of these kids didn't learn none of that shit, or shall I say the older generation didn't learn none of that shit until later on in the series. So Boruto, it showcases not only Boruto, I think just this next generation as a whole, they're a little bit more advanced than like the previous generation, which has always been one of the themes of Naruto anyway. The next generation is, you know, surpassing the older generation. So I guess that was keeping that intact as well. And I mean, I liked how, again, it's trying to really push forth and be a staple in a sense of Boruto's doing things his way. Yes, he's using the shadow clones, which you would easily compare and say Naruto ripoff, but he was trying to do it in his own way. And even when he said that line, like, I don't use my clones as a distraction, this is me, and he, you know, bopped Iwabe, I was like, okay, Boruto, I see you, bro. I see you doing some big things. And you could tell, though, that if Iwabe would have used that stick that he had, he would have fucked his shit up, and that's why Inojin had to stop him, because it was about to be all bad for Boruto. He was gonna get fucked in the end if that stick would have been involved, although then again it wouldn't have been fair. We also see in this episode some elements of Sarada having some caring for Boruto, even though she's, you know, distressed, and it's kind of like Sakura in a way, so nothing new there, to be honest with you. It's like a pass down of like, even though she stressed multiple times, I don't give a shit about Boruto. You know, a lot of these kids, I like that they're incorporating that element as well of like, our parents was friends doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be friends. And I think it was contradictory to a certain degree with what Sarada was actually feeling, because again, you can see she was kind of worried, and you'll see those emotions and feelings probably develop throughout Boruto. As a whole, this episode, it was giving a simple message and something in classic shonen, nothing groundbreaking at all, definitely not as hype or as exciting as episode 1, but it still was doing enough to continue building these characters, getting the early days. And we also got an introduction to Iwabe, which again, a lot of people are speculating that this dude is going to turn out to be that Kawaki guy. Well, they got different names, but I do think to a certain degree Studio Peria is playing it up very heavily with having his hair with the head wrap around it, so that way we can't tell if that's actually going to be Kawaki or not. I mean, it could be, you never know, but I have a lot of doubts about that. And people are also thinking Denki, and I made a whole video about that. If you want to check it out, feel free to do so. But yeah, as a whole, it was, you know, him bringing Iwabe around, a lesson of like, no, it's not good to be a bully. And I mean, at the end of the day, what Iwabe was thinking when he was screaming, I want to be like the Hokage, you know, he came up with strength and whatnot. Well, there's a lot more context that you're missing from that, and I guess that was the important consensus of all of this, and he changed by the end of the episode to actually want to study. So very simple but enjoyable episode. I want to say I'll give it probably the 7 out of 10 around there. It was a good episode, fine episode. I'm really looking forward to continuing on and discovering more characters. I'm glad that completely the cast of Boruto isn't just filled with nothing but Naruto and his friends as children, because if that was the case, it's like, yeah, I mean, we got some Shikadai in this episode, and Shikadai, to be honest with you, he's straight up, I don't see really even a smither of a difference between him and his father, so he's pretty much a clone. But we also have other characters in the classroom. I think there was like a girl with purple hair, and a couple other ones. People are saying there was like this one random kid, which I highly doubt he has any relevance to that. Maybe that could be Kakashi's kid, who knows? But we did have some kids, hopefully, that are going to be relevant. I mean, we already got Denki and Iwabe, that they're not passovers from the previous series, so that's good. But again, nothing groundbreaking, not the most amazing episode. It was a very simplistic little lesson that it was teaching to build forth for the future of the Boruto series. 7 out of 10. But I'm kind of curious what you guys think. How did you feel about Iwabe? What did you think about the lessons that was brought forth? How do you feel about Boruto's struggles and kind of the analogy that I gave in the beginning of this video, where yes, Naruto's problems, and a lot of people in the Naruto series, their problems were huge or grander, way crazier and sadder than what Boruto's facing, but that doesn't defeat the fact that he does have problems, and it's not just, you know, a breath of wind. You know, people look at him a certain way, and he has so many different things to go through, and your overall thoughts of the episode. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.